Election problems have plagued New Mexico for as long as most people can remember.
6 different voting systems are used by our county. 6. This multitude of systems complicates, confounds voters. Election night reporting ultimately leads to voters questioning whether their vote was accurately counted.
You cannot talk about democracy unless you understand that the vote is what keeps the democracy.
The experts early on came to me and said, these machines are hackable. This software is not safe.
What we're dealing with today are 2 concepts: disenfranchisement versus democracy. If you are now on the side of electronic voting, you're on the side of disenfranchisement.
With voter confidence at an all-time low, citizens around the country are questioning the security, accuracy, and reliability of electronic voting machines.
I like to say that the most important day of your life is election day, because this is the day when the decisions are made about the laws that are going to be passed and are going to affect your life. And of course now, with the D-ball machines that do not secure our vote count, that they can be manipulated, that they can be hacked. I mean, this is so discouraging for people. They think, well, why should I vote?
Good afternoon, Senator. I'm Lowell Finley. I'm an election law attorney. I've been, for the last year, litigating a lawsuit in the state of New Mexico challenging the use of DRE voting systems there. And I'm happy to report that yesterday, the state of New Mexico's legislature passed a bill that will mandate all paper ballot voting and optical scanners for the state.
There's a lot of controversy about what may have happened in 2004 and in 2000. I think people should be looking to future elections and saying to themselves, is it tolerable to be using voting systems where it's possible for someone with relative ease to commit fraud with them?
U.S. voters are challenging the rush to these electronic voting systems now happening under the Help America Vote Act. HAVA is forcing a wholesale shift in how our votes are cast and counted, just in time for the 2006 elections. HAVA requires one accessible voting system per precinct for disabled voters. However, vendors are exploiting HAVA to push only the most costly and least secure machines, direct record electronics, or touchscreen DREs.
That process was driven by the vendors, who had obviously a huge financial stake in this. And this has been particularly true since 2002, when Congress passed a law called the Help America Vote Act.
Vendors lobbied hard to get the $3.8 billion Help America Vote Act passed. Its principal co-author, Bob Ney of Ohio, is best known for his close ties to the Jack Abramoff corruption scandal. Now those same vendors are the principal recipients of HAVA's exorbitant funding. Diebold, an Ohio company, wrote sizable checks to Jack Abramoff's lobbying firm, a generous supporter of Ohio's Bob Ney. As chairman of the powerful House Administration Committee, Ney then blocked every attempt to reform HAVA.
Just one computer security professor after another across the United States who's looked at these systems says they're a disaster waiting to happen.
A growing series of government reports confirm what computer security experts have been saying for years. Congressman John Conyers' report documented, quote, massive and unprecedented voter irregularities and anomalies in Ohio.
We say Florida 2000, Ohio 2004, who knows 2008? Who knows?
The role of voting machines and computers in our elections represents an increasingly serious issue in our democracy.
When Harry Hursty stepped up here and talked about the hack in Leon County, he was talking about something that blows a cannon hole through the foundation of Diebold Election Systems program. It is a designed-in welcome mat for vulnerability. It is not a glitch. It's not something that you can work around. It is in the design itself, and it took him less than 5 minutes to blam, go right on through the system, leaving no evidence whatsoever.
The Harry Hursty hack proved untraceable election flipping is possible on Diebold Optiscans. Now, computer security experts are asking, why are there built-in wireless infrared ports on Diebold touchscreens? The Government Accountability Office issued a report condemning electronic voting systems. Other computer programs could access cast vote files and alter them without the system recording this action.
Computers may actually be prone to mistakes. In Maryland, officials commissioned a security expert to try and rig a fake election using the state's new Diebold machines. His findings?
We broke into the computer at the State Board of Elections, completely changed the election, left, and then erased all our trail and got back out.
I mean, sure, you give a guy all day to,
And we did it in under 5 minutes.
It is possible to gain full control of a regional vote tabulation computer, including the ability to modify the voting software via a modem connection.
Sadly, with these machines, one person in one room in an off-site location can change the outcome of an election and no one would ever know it. That is the problem with these machines.
The GAO report concluded that the concerns raised regarding the security and reliability of electronic voting systems, quote, have the potential to affect election outcomes.
Of course, somebody can set the machine to make a mistake. And it's just not the Republicans. Democrats could do it too.
Sure.
I mean, we have to know that nobody can fool around with your individual vote.
The bipartisan Carter-Baker Commission came out with an equally scathing report. DRE software can be modified maliciously before being installed.
What's different about electronic voting and what makes it particularly dangerous is that an error made by a single programmer unintentionally can affect the programming of thousands of voting machines. And if someone intentionally wants to tamper with the way the machine works, then it only takes one or a handful of people to do that.
If DREs can be manipulated, the same can be done with paper audit trails.
Everybody says the thing that we definitely need is a paper trail, but even with the paper trail, there are problems or security issues with voting machines.
Paper trail legislation has triumphed in state after state, but vendors have answered with unworkable paper trail technology.
What's wrong with touchscreen voting is not the touchscreen itself fundamentally, but the fact that the votes are recorded electronically, not on paper, and then tallied electronically, so that there's no meaningful way to recount and there's no meaningful way to conduct random audits after elections to make sure that the systems are recording and counting votes accurately.
We are not going to be fooled any longer by these corporate executives who have sold us a bill of goods with machines that don't work.
There is no reason to trust insiders in the election industry any more than in other industries.
We have got to put voting back in the hands of the people. Voting cannot be privatized. It's not something you hand over to private companies.
Another common misconception is that systems that have federal certification are secure. In fact, the ill-named independent testing authorities used to certify machines are vendor-funded, voluntary, and test only features, not security.
Testing is done by private laboratories that are hired and paid by the voting machine companies. One defective system after another has been certified over the years by these testers, and then once it's out in the field, they fail miserably in actual elections. They lose votes. The machines switch votes right in front of people's eyes while they're voting on a touch screen.
We in Georgia, of course, pioneered with the $54 million contract for machines that now our Secretary of State says can produce a paper trail, but the experts with whom I have spoken say, no, these machines are nothing but junk. And they proved to be junk on Election Day.
Not only are these systems insecure, but touchscreen DREs cost local taxpayers millions of dollars more than paper ballot-based voting. To equal the voter capacity of one paper ballot OptiScanner plus a ballot marking device for disabled voters, 10 touchscreen DREs must be purchased. Maryland's Republican Governor Ehrlich publicly denounced touchscreen DREs, complaining of a 1,000% increase in maintenance costs. The governor notes that costs have, quote, skyrocketed as our confidence in the system has plummeted, and expresses his personal belief that Maryland voters be allowed to vote with paper. Maryland's Republican governor joins New Mexico's Democratic governor in opposing touchscreen DREs. Governor Richardson of New Mexico responded to evidence, litigation, and the sheer persistence of citizen action by committing to statewide paper ballot OptiScan voting.
A task force commissioned to study vote counting problems has now recommended that the entire state switch to a system that uses paper ballots which are tabulated by optical scanner machines. Governor Bill Richardson said today he agrees.
And I'm tired of New Mexico elections, always at the end of every election cycle, being the subject of scrutiny and sometimes derision nationally.
Now, activists who oppose electronic voting machines favor the paper ballot system because it leaves a paper trail that can be easily followed to check for fraud and mistakes.
Paper ballots, either scanned through an OptiScan machine or hand-counted, are preferable to touchscreen DREs.
What is good about those systems is there's a means to double check by hand counting the paper ballots.
However, OptiScans are error-prone and hackable. Mandatory audits with vote totals posted at the precinct are necessary to confirm OptiScan accuracy. Successful litigation blocking touchscreen DREs in New Mexico is now rolling out in state after state.
Our firm became involved in this case because we saw this as an issue of grave concern for the future integrity of California elections. The lawsuit concerns a touchscreen voting system. This is an issue not only of vote fraud and the integrity of the elections, but also an issue of access, because the systems in question do not provide full and meaningful access for many people with disabilities. It is not in compliance with the requirements of state and federal law. The lawsuit, therefore, seeks to prevent the certification from going forward, and it seeks to prevent the use and purchase of these machines by the county election officials, so that all of our California voters can be assured of having a truly verifiable voting system that will be providing results that are a true expression of the will of the people.
My people went through Jim Crow, my parents, and to have a system in where it's questionable if the votes count, things may be rigged, people may know it, you could have this system but it's flawed, that to me is like a system, a sophisticated Jim Crow, and I know nobody wants that. Thank you. Thank you.
There is a long and bloody history of voter suppression in America, from literacy tests to long lines, from the poll tax to police at the polls. These practices continue. Over the years, determined people in wave after wave have pushed back. Successive generations have fought for and won voting rights for women, for African Americans, and for other minorities.
We know if the majority of people vote, that we will have a true democracy and we can elect some decent leadership for our state and for our country.
So now, what are the American people to do? You've got voter obstruction in the 2000 presidential election by stationing police officers in black areas and having roadblocks and all of that kind of stuff to make people not go to vote, or giving them tickets when they're trying to park to go and vote. And now you've got the crass vote manipulation, but it's hidden.
That's what it is. It is high-tech Jim Crow.
Now, more sophisticated forms of voter suppression have emerged that are affecting all American voters. Criminal redistricting, voter ID laws, illegal voter purges, and electronic voting machines are together mobilizing a new wave of citizen action.
There is a great movement moving, and the other beauty of it is that it brings us together almost like back in the day. People of all colors and all races and all incomes and all religions, recognizing that we're in a regressive state in the United States of America right now.
What's missing in our nation that's fighting a war overseas for democracy in another country is protecting our own democracy.
Unless we fix this problem, none of the rest of this matters.
We like to say, si se puede, we can do it, but we have to work very hard.
Informed voters and public officials around the nation are demanding paper ballot voting with audits. They are determined to restore basic accountability and confidence in the accuracy of American elections. Call, write, and visit your elections officials. Show up at hearings. Demand a moratorium on touchscreen DREs. Insist on paper ballot precinct-level OptiScans with audits, or paper ballots hand-counted. File lawsuits. Get press. Show this DVD. Volunteer to work the polls.
We made sure that in the southernmost precincts, which are the heavily black precincts, that we had an overabundance of eyes, trained eyes, looking at everything that happened at a particular precinct. The official poll workers, they didn't know anything about the machines. And then when the Diebold technicians came in to fix the machines, we had our people there too, watching what they did and then asking them to tell us what they did. And that's how we found out that the machines don't work well in hot weather.
And in 2000, I think people should be looking to future elections and saying to themselves, is it tolerable to be using voting systems where it's possible for someone with relative ease to commit fraud with them?
U.S. voters are challenging the rush to these electronic voting systems now happening under the Help America Vote Act. HAVA is forcing a wholesale shift in how our votes are cast and counted, just in time for the 2006 elections. HAVA requires one accessible voting system per precinct for disabled voters. However, vendors are exploiting
Understand that the vote is what keeps the democracy.
The experts early on came to me and said, these machines are hackable. This software is not safe.
What we're dealing with today are two concepts: disenfranchisement versus democracy. If you are now on the side of electronic voting, you're on the side of disenfranchisement.
That they could be manipulated, that they could be hacked. I mean, this is so discouraging for people. They think, well, why should I vote?
Good afternoon, Senator. I'm Lowell Finley. I'm an election law attorney. I've been, for the last year, litigating a lawsuit in the state of New Mexico challenging the use of DRE voting systems there. And I'm happy to report that yesterday, the state of New Mexico's legislature passed a bill that will mandate all paper ballot voting and optical scanners for the state.
There's a lot of controversy about what may have happened in 2004.
Election problems have plagued New Mexico for as long as most people can remember.
6 different voting systems are used by our county. 6. This multitude of systems complicates, confounds voters. Election night reporting ultimately leads to voters questioning whether their vote was accurately counted.
You cannot talk about democracy unless you understand. Voting rights are not betrayed. When voting rights are not betrayed.
With voter confidence at an all-time low, citizens around the country are questioning the security, accuracy, and reliability of electronic voting machines.
I like to say that the most important day of your life is Election Day, because this is the day when the decisions are made about the laws that are going to be passed and are going to affect your life. And of course now, with the deball machines that do not secure our vote count,